Dr. Jazz.
I wanted to ask you this. Like, I mean, you've been so prolific and so active. You know, having your own label,
Mm-hmm.
leading your own
Mm-hmm.
bands, organizing a series, all these things. And I think especially for documenting the improvised music in Brooklyn for the last 15 years, 10 years,
That's
15
right.
years, even
That's
longer
right.
maybe.
It's
And
been a while.
it's been a while, yeah. Like, where this all this come from? With you, like, having all these things. Like, how did you start with the label and with organizing
Well,
this? And
why you mean like why?
why?
Or
And yeah, why?
or
And how did this occur?
like what what do you mean? Where does it all come from with me? Like what do you
Like,
mean by that?
having your own label and basically recording so much of your music. And
Touch what?
yeah, I mean, let's start there.
Right. Well, you know, I mean, before I started doing all this stuff, I mean, I before before I did any of the series, the music series or the record label, um, which that stuff started around, I think, 2017.
Quite
That's
late.
what I,
Okay, I
yeah.
thought it was
So
earlier. Okay.
that's it's about 7 years that I've been actually, you know, doing that stuff. But before that, I mean, I already had, like 20 records out, a clean feed, and
Yeah, yeah,
all of the various labels.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's sort of like it's a different era for me. Like once I started in 2017, then there was no more other labels like that. So that was like a decision on my part. So all this stuff, it was like a conscious decision because I felt like mm, at that time, I mean, now it's a long time ago, but at that time, I was kind of felt like I was stagnating.
Mm,
Like it was just uh, I got lost for a little while, and I actually sort of lost touch with the scene, and I didn't know who
mm.
was who and what was what so much. But I knew a lot of people from earlier, but there were a lot of other people. Yeah, and this in like 2016 or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, and this is probably just a natural thing that happens. And part of kind of getting through that was just to like let go of everything the way I was doing things before, and I realized that with other record labels, look, and it's a lot of work, now that I'm doing it,
Yeah.
and it's not that I'm ungrateful. So, but it's they can't really serve someone like myself, like my interests as an artist, because I do too much.
Yeah. True. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's because I have to now. It's because it's coming out. That's it. And I don't question it. In other words, like that's at that point, that's when I make the decision that this is who gives me my orders. Not that anymore. Like I
Mm-hmm.
switched over. Yeah, I'm not like a careerist really. It's not like that. It's more that everything I'm doing is so that is to facilitate the music. Like that the career stuff. It doesn't mean very much to me, and I understand it, and a lot of it has to do with knowing like your place, like your role, like who am I, and what is it that
Mm-hmm.
I'm meant to be doing. Because if you're meant to be a monk, but you become a priest, you're not going to be. You're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a priest is answerable to the people. That's where he gets. He's like in between them and whatever, and that it's all about the flock. Because if there's no
Yeah.
people, then there's no need for a priest. That's it. He is tethered,
Exactly.
right? But the monk. you know, all the monks, you know that story, like if they put priests of every religion, all of them, Buddhists, Hindus, you know, all of them, in a room, and it was like non-stop fighting, non-stop. It was just warfare in there. It was horrible, you know, because, you know, a priest is part of, you know, it's about, you know, dogma. It's about the way the, you know, like the establishment sort of, in a way, you know, that's just the nature of things, right? Because if you can't take something without nothing's free. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, yeah. The choice I take, that's not free either. It's just different. It's different. You see, it's about knowing your role. So, but you see, when they put all the monks in one room, there was perfect silence in equanimity. Because their answer to a different thing, yeah, it's not about anybody else or about any, yeah, it's about a whole different thing. So I decided then that's what it's about. Now, in order to do that, I had to figure out like how to develop an audience. You know, I knew that I had to play like all the time, you know, and with one group, not with like, you know, the variety show that everybody does these days. Yeah. Particularly in New York. Yeah, you know, I mean, jazz has always been like that. See, that's not wrong either. Jazz has never been like a monogamous, you know, like rock is more like that, the band, and rock is one band, right? So that's okay. But then there's the other stream. You know, most of the really great changes and things that happen in jazz are from groups, not from you know, Coleman Hawkins meets Ben Webster. Yeah. Those were great records too. I love those ones, you know. Yeah, and you know, there's not a lot of people today that are following that stream anymore. So I figured that if I'm going to do it every week, it would be good to do it with one group because it would set the tone, and we'd be there every week, and everyone else would be there like once every 4 or 5 months. So the next time they heard us, it would be like, whoa, you know, because it's been, yeah, and it's sort of like playing, and it becomes your room too. You play in the room, yeah, it's a whole thing. For years, since 2017, I've been doing this. And it's on purpose, and really I had to have 5 bands in a night in order to get enough people to maintain it. Yeah. You know, to satisfy all the various, you know, venue owners and blah, blah, blah. You know, that whole thing. There's a little bit of that. Yeah. But it's all geared towards this kind of, and then the same thing with the record label. You know, I didn't want to, it didn't make sense to me anymore to filter my music through, you know, like someone else's, you know, oh, we'll take that one. You know, because it's not that I respect other people's opinions, and, you know, that I'm not saying that it doesn't matter, it does. But I know what music's supposed to be out there. You know, like, makes sense. Yeah, like there's no, it's not anymore like there's no one out there that's more qualified than me to know what shouldn't be released. You know, maybe at one point there was when I was younger. You see, so it's all like, it's not like a negative thing. It's just like, this is what I should be doing now. This is what makes sense, like that. And I think other people see that and they pick up on that. You see, because that's what I think people should be doing. That's what I think musicians should be doing. You know, it's okay. I mean, you know, there's a place for all of it, and it's just a matter of knowing which you are. You know. Yeah, I mean, like if you're a black guy, it might mean something different to you because it's got a cultural component to it that you know, for someone like me, it doesn't in quite the same way. Yeah, it's different, you know, and certainly for people in Europe, it's really different. You know, which is like really fresh and fantastic, but it's also like I can tell it's because, well, you know, because I I grew up like a few miles from Newark, New Jersey, and it's like very black, and in the 1980s, it was very dangerous back then, and the cops would only walk in like groups of 4 or 5. That and that's where there were really great jam sessions there. And I was kind of pointed. I got really lucky when I was 17, 18, my first year in college, and I met this guy, Chris White, and he was this a bassist, and he was Nina Simone's bass player in the 1950s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was heavy duty, and he played with Cecil Taylor as well.
Oh, wow, man.
Yeah. He was like, he was great. He was great. Yeah, his hands were huge. So he's gone now. He lived a long life. But but anyway, he pointed me. He said, "Go here on Wednesdays and go here on Sundays," like that. Yeah, like that. So I went there, and I was like, maybe there was me and maybe one other white person, and I was a kid, and they'd serve me, like they got to know me, and I was practicing nonstop back then. But these were all like, that's how I learned. So it's like, but in different places, and even it's not just Europe. I mean, even in different places in the United States that are not New York or Chicago or whatever, then there's jam sessions and stuff, but it's like different people. It's different. Yeah, like in Seattle. I lived in Seattle for a little while in my 20s, and they have a really good jazz scene over there. It's a small city, but it's not New York. But they have a good scene, and there's really great players out there. I think there's great players everywhere, but it's the culture of the music's a little bit different. I think every place, that kind of way. Yeah, it's like give or take. But anyway, ask me more questions. Did I go off there? Yeah.
No, I love beautiful, and it's like a free improv we're doing, so it's cool.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask you. You mentioned like the 80s, and when you started, what got you excited for the music that you play nowadays? I mean, like let's say improvisation or jazz in particular.
Yeah. Well,
was there a moment for you that you said like, "Shit, I want to play this music"? Or
yeah, there was. It was specific moment. It was a record. It all happened pretty quick. I think my parents bought me an LP. I think I was maybe 14 or 15. And it was a record. It was a compilation LP. It said "Tenors Anyone." That was the title, and it was Zoot Sims. Not together, these guys. They were just leaders on
like
a few tracks of it. Yeah, Zoot Sims, Stan Getz, Wardell Gray, and Paul Quinichette, and he was like a Lester Young sounding guy, and I remember that. I mean, I just listened to it and listened to it and listened to it. This was like swing jazz, really, But wow, and I remember thinking to myself, I know this language, like I know it, but I can't remember it. And I was like, I have to learn it again. I have to like I knew that I had to remember it now. Yeah, because it sounded like it made sense to me. It was just like, oh, right,
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. There was just it was like deja vu kind of, and that's what it was. It was that one record, and then there were a few other ones like that, and I got started, and I got really lucky. I mean, because my parents weren't musical, and I didn't know anything about like how to go about anything like that or anything like that. I was just listening to the record and trying to play like Lester Young, with all the breath and the air and everything, right? Yeah. but in school, my teacher, he could tell that I was getting into jazz, that I was like interested in it. And he handed me a piece of paper. He said, "Here's a saxophone teacher. I heard he's a really good jazz teacher." And I called the guy, and his name is Charlie Leitz. That was his show name. His real name was Charlie Leibowitz. And unbelievable player. He sounded like a cross between Ben Webster and Charlie Parker. And I just got really, yeah, he was the lead tenor player in the Louis Prima Orchestra in the 1930s. That was like a big, yeah, he knew Lester Young, and he was friends. He talked all the time about Herschel Evans, that he was friends with him. And that was the, in the Bisio band, it was Lester Young and Herschel Evans. Yeah. You know, he was that era. And anyway, I play his saxophone now.
Okay, wow.
That's yeah. And he was 70 when I was 16. He was 70. This was back in the 80s, you know. So he was like a World War II vet. You know, yeah. Wow. So I got very, 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 very lucky. Like everything like it's like you know, someone was like, "Okay, now make sure he gets the number." But you know, it was like, yeah, it was all along the way. It was like that because I was pretty clueless the whole time through. There was no particular reason. Yeah. Then I went to Montclair State College, which is like a teaching college, really. But it was that, you know, music. So all right, music education. You know, I didn't know what else to do. It wasn't like, oh well, you know, Joe Lovano, I'm going to study with, you know, it wasn't like that. I just stumbled, and that's where I met this guy, Chris White, the bassist. But he had just been hired as an adjunct that semester, and that's how that happened. And then he directed me to those jam sessions, and also to William Patterson College, is where I transferred a few years later. This is in the late 80s, and that's where. So because I met Chris White, then I wound up a few years later studying with Joe Lovano. You know?
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, wow.
Yeah, for 3 years, and when I studied with Lovano, it was right before everybody in the world was like, you know, my senior year is when Landmarks came out.
I love that record, man.
That's just
with Abercrombie, right?
First Blue Note record.
That's a killing record, man. That's a killing record.
And when he was making all those records with Schofield, they're all classics now. In the late 90s, that's when I was, in the early 90s, late 80s, that's when I was studying with them. Wow. And that's right, yeah. So it just, but there was no, even so, when I first met him, I didn't really know, you know, it was just, I found out. I mean, he used to play, but I didn't really know how, like, I just, yeah, it was just like someone was, now you go here. And it's a strange thing. I've thought about that. And it's different for everybody, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So ask me more questions. This way you can kind of steer it a little bit, you know?
Yeah. I'm leaving you now just because I love to listen to you. I'm usually, I have a style that I don't want to interfere, you know. So like, no, I wanted to ask you, like, I have that record, A Long Night Waiting, by you with Michael and Jay, the trio, and how did you start? Yeah, it's a beautiful one. How did you start
you like that
leading your own bands? And like, when did that begin for you? Like, leading your own groups?
Was already bands, in
the 90s already, or?
Yeah, that one, that's on Cadence Jazz Records, right? Yeah.
That one is like 2000.
Yeah, that's a great record. That's my first record here in New York City when I first came out. So you know, I did in Seattle for 7 years. You know, I was in my late 20s and early 30s, and I came out to New York. I'm from New York originally. I was born in New York Hospital, and New York, and then New Jersey. When, you know, in my grade school, my father's company moved. My parents are from Harlem, you know,
Okay.
but my father's company moved to New Jersey at one point, so he moved there. We moved there with him, you know, and then I wound up out in Seattle for a while. I played a lot. It was really after I finished at William Patterson College. I see. Here's the other thing. I've always been very I don't know what the word for it is. Like when after school, after college, I knew I wasn't ready.
Okay.
That's it. And I knew that I had to find a job where I could just play the entire time for a while. So I went on cruise ships after school, and I played in the Glenn Miller Orchestra for a little while.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
all
I
that
didn't
stuff.
know that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I played all the time. You know, I found in cruise ships I played like 15 hours a week, and then the rest of the time, you know, I was finding places to practice all day.
Oh.
Yeah, all night, and that kind of thing. And I was never the type to like. I didn't realize until years later that most people aren't like that. Most people just go right, I'm right, you know. And even I remember when I wound up out in Seattle, and I met James Emery. Have you heard of him, James Emery?
Yeah, I love James,
The
man. He's
New York
one of my
string
favorite
quartet
guitarists.
dream,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yes. Well, through Mike Bisio.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, because that's where I met Mike. I met Mike in Seattle when I was out there, and he was living out there. He you know, with raising a family at that time in Seattle, and and so he was playing with James, and we set up this gig, and it was great. It was a really great gig, and I remember talking with him, and you know, my friend who's not a musician started talking to James, you know, not me even, my friend, you know, and he told me later, he was like, yeah, so I asked James, you know, do you think, Stephen, if he goes to New York, he'd be playing with the big boys? And he said, oh yeah, like that, you know. This was like years and years and years ago, like that, you know, and I remember talking to James, and you know, that night, and saying, well, you know, New York. This is when I was like thinking about going back. I was like, you know, I don't know like 5,000 tunes. He said, that's it. Don't worry about it. Like, you know, like you know, you know, like that. And that's when I started saving my money basically to go back at that point. But it's always like that. It's always like that with me. It's a bit like you see this in particular artists. I think like Sonny Rollins took that year off.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I think Coltrane was like that. He was, you know, he did like 50,000 takes, and he practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. You know, he played giant steps. I heard for like 6 months a year before.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and then he went in the studio and he put it in front of them for the first time. And on that studio recording, that's the first time everyone else saw it.
Yeah, you hear the comping. You hear the comping. I think who's on piano there?
That's
Like,
right.
is it Tommy Flanagan or someone like? No, Cedar or who is it on that one? Like, but the piano, it's like he's really going like really basic, like touching it. Like, I mean, I love that. Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
But I think it's just a particular type.
Yeah.
Type of artist, you know, and I think there's pitfalls to whatever type you are, you know, like you have to like watch out for, because you know, of course, you know, you have to at one time or another lay your cards down and go out there and do it, right? Otherwise, it just doesn't happen. Right? You can't prepare forever.
Yeah.
But on the other side, you know, there's the other thing, you know, like if you eat that fruit right away, then you know you're not going to get that really right. You know, in other words, you know, I think you may be giving up something, maybe even more. That could be.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's a bit like that, but you know, you have to kind of like ride the wave.
Yeah, definitely. Stephen, when you came back to New York, like,
Yes,
how did
let's
you?
do it.
Who were your first connections that when you returned after Seattle? Who did you first start playing with?
Oh, when I returned after, actually, let's
Yeah.
see. So you mean like who did I start playing with in New York?
Yeah, I mean nowadays, you know, when I see your labor or your Bandcamp site, or like, I think
Oh
you
yeah,
played
over
with
here.
everyone who's part of the creative New
Yeah.
York
Well,
scene, right?
I'm
But like,
trying to
how
think
how did
back.
you start with?
That was in 2000 when I came
Mm,
back. Who was I playing with then? 2000. Well, you know, I was playing with people. I mean, Mike Bisio wasn't out here yet, so you know, Long Night Waiting, he was here just for like a little bit,
okay.
yeah, a few days or whatever, like that. And the reason I picked Jay Rosen was because there was a connection with them through
Yeah,
John McPhee, Trio X,
yeah, 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 yeah.
like that. Yeah, there was that whole thing, and you know, but who was I playing with them? You know, the first 2 years in the very beginning in New York, I was actually getting my master's degree at NYU.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was studying with George Garzone then.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and some of my first gigs were with Garzone actually right after I got the degree. I did it in 2 years, and then I started playing with him. I played with him a few times at the Knitting Factory.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
and this one he was my age then. He was in his 50s, you know, back then, and yeah, and he was amazing. And
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
first, yeah, it's pretty interesting, you know, that now. Basically, the first gig at the Knitting Factory, they were like maybe a few months apart, you know. The first time I can't remember the rhythm section for the first time, you know, but I remember that I went out there, you know, play, right, and you know, and George was like, you know, so, yeah. But then in the last like 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 3 minutes or 2 minutes, he just like it was basically just like it was a fucking tornado, a hurricane. It was just like and I was like holding on to a post. That's it. And that was it. And everyone forgot everything I played the entire night before that. That's good. That was my lesson. That was it. That was it. And he, you know, it was just like that. And so then like 6 months later, the next time I remember that it was a big lesson, you know. The next time it was with Tyshawn Sorey on drums, and Tyshawn was like 18.
18, yeah, probably,
He
yeah,
was a kid.
yeah.
Yeah, and I actually at that time I went and I played. I traveled out to William Patterson College and hung out with him there right after
Mm,
we played. Yeah, when he was this is many years ago. Now he's like super famous conductor
yeah, yeah,
and everything
sure.
else. Yeah, um, but he was
Oh,
super great drummer like then. Like right, he was just like he was complete already. You know.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's something. But it was with him and this bass player Todd Nicholson, I think.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then me and George. And
Wow.
the second time it was much more than, you know, I went, yeah, it was that's much better.
Mm.
But yeah, there's a recording of it somewhere. Tyshawn asks me about that sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he
Oh,
remembers
wow.
that gig too. Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful.
Yeah. It's funny, you know, because you don't think there's more and more people like that I've met many years ago and you know, it's like, wow, you know, they're just like that, you know, and it's you don't really think about it that way, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah. You know the
yeah.
comedian Reggie Watts?
No, no,
You
no.
ever hear of him? He's
I mean,
super,
I follow stand-up comedy a lot, but I don't know him.
he's
I
like
mean,
Comedy Central.
oh, okay, I
Like
have to check
that.
him out. Okay, okay.
Yeah, he's on the Tonight Show and all those. Like
Really? Oh
he's
shit. Okay.
super huge. He's got this big giant ear. He's a big guy. And when I was in Seattle, he was a keyboard player in the music scene. We used to hang out and play. Hey,
Ah,
that's
really?
Reggie.
Oh wow,
Reggie,
man.
you mean Reggie? Yeah, and he started doing comedy, and I was like,
Funny, right? Yeah,
yeah, it's amazing. But
yeah, yeah.
anyway, yeah. So what else? Ask me more
Yeah, no,
questions.
no. I wanted to ask you like a follow-up, like that I listened, to those recording live at Scholes Street
Hmm.
Studio, the one he did with William
That's right.
and Tyshawn with and Santiago, and then the different one with
That's
Ken
right.
Filiano and Vinny Sperrazza, and with Adam and Colin, like, which is kind of your trio, but like I find it so interesting. All these bands, the quartets, are so different, man. And you basically just change the rhythm section, bass and drums. And
Do you
how
think
did
they
all these?
really?
I mean,
They sound very distinct. You think?
I mean,
They're very.
just the improv style, because Vinny's style, I love all these guys. Is
Hmm.
completely different
Hmm.
than Tyshawn's,
Right.
for instance. And I mean,
That's right.
you're you, right? Right? You have your sound, your voice,
That's
and
right.
Santiago. But just like
That's
the
right.
way you interact with the music, with what's happening, William is different than
Yeah.
Ken, obviously, and Adam. So,
Yeah.
but I wanted to ask you, how did all these recordings happen? Like, how do you decide for a group, or what's the story behind those?
Yeah. So let me see. How did they all happen? Well, some of them were kind of like, at that for that batch. Some of those were just like, um, how to say, people that I'd always like to do this with. You know what I mean? That I want to do
Yeah,
this now. Let's do this now. You know what I mean? But yeah, the timing's right for all of it. Let's just be like that. And there's some of those, and I think like with William and Matthew and Francisco, like those like they're great records, and that's kind of a
yeah,
this is the time I can do this. I can do this now. This would be a beautiful thing to do, like that. And it's not necessarily. Uh, it's a little bit like you know John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman,
mm, mm,
right? It's not like at the same time he was doing all this groundbreaking stuff. But then
yeah,
he was like, you know what? Let me do this now. This would be you guys want me. You guys want me to do a tribute record to somebody who's dead, but I'm not going to do that. How about this guy who's still alive? That's a great musician. And
yeah,
before he, right, like that, right,
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. So the record companies were happy, and he did something, yeah, like that. It's sort of like that, and it's sort of not like that. Um, I did that duet with Matthew during the pandemic duets.
hmm yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was super cool too. You know, I'd like to record again with Matthew soon. Yeah,
Yeah, you did
yeah,
tons of those,
yeah.
right? During the pandemic. I mean, I love that you kept active. Like,
That's right.
what's the story
19.
behind those
I,
duets? I mean,
I did 19 recordings,
19, man.
19
Yeah,
duets. Yeah.
yeah, that's the way.
Um, Plus I think there was a solo recording too. So
Wow.
it's funny. Yeah, I did a lot of them. I was there. I spent a lot of time at Scholes Street Studio. It was with Renee Lamb. He's the owner engineer, and at that time, that was when it was before the bassoon. So we were all like everything like a party. Yeah, it was a scary time, and but it was like it was a lifeline because everything
Mm,
was shut. There was nothing. It was really, and
true.
I live alone, so it was like, oh man, this sucks. So as soon as we could, like as soon as they said, well, it's okay if you're like 15 feet apart and all that stuff, and you have to keep the door open and you can't have anyone there but
Yeah,
two people. Yeah, so that's why they're duets because we could put one person on one side of the studio and one person on the other. And he put up all this plastic sheeting. He did a whole thing.
Oh shit, man.
There was a fan blowing stuff outside, and yep. And yeah, that's how I did it. And basically, I reached out to everyone that I really wanted to play with, and you know,
Incredible selection.
At first, people were wary, you know, but then when they came and they saw, see, we really went out of our way to set it up, like so that people felt safe, you know, because yeah, it was still like that then, you know, and I remember, you know, I think after the first couple, then you know, people, oh, okay, it's cool, like that, you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, I did a duet with offhand. Let me see, with Matt, Gerald Cleaver.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love that. I love Gerald. I mean, I played with him quite some time, and
it's super cool. And oh wow, who were some of the other ones that I haven't? Oh, actually, you know, I just recently recorded, and it's going to be coming out soon. Duet with Mark Edwards.
Wow, seriously? Whoa.
Oh, yeah,
man, I love that guy.
Yeah, I'm really I'm happy with it.
So just a duo, sax and drums, or?
That's it. Just duet.
Okay.
Just duet.
Okay.
Yeah. He's such a good guy. I love him.
Yeah.
Have you ever met him?
No, we did this interview, and you know, I have him on so many records, obviously.
Oh, you did this interview, yeah? Oh,
yeah.
That's
he's
great,
such a treasure of stories, you know, like he's played with everyone, and so underrated, and
that's right.
And such a player, man. You know, it's like crazy. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, fantastic. Also, how does your story with Cooper Moore begin? Because you also have a big connection.
Oh yeah, Cooper Moore. Wow. Yeah, so Cooper. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I was curating a series at an art gallery in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and at first I wasn't performing on it. I was just you know, booking. I decided to focus for, I think maybe for the first year, maybe, or first 6 months on only pianists. And what I did was I broke it up into the first set solo, and then the second set, you know, whatever you want, like, you know, trio or whatever your group. And do you know Bruce at the Downtown Music Gallery?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I remember I sent Bruce an email, and I asked him to send me a list of all his favorite piano players.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
And then you know, that stuff like that, and I just basically and that's how I met Cooper Moore, because you know he played a concert. Yeah, and it's a cool story, really. You know, he played his concert, and it was fantastic. You know, he's amazing. Yeah, and who else was on that? Melanie Dyer, the cellist, right? Yeah. Do you know her playing?
No.
Melanie Dyer, I believe.
Okay, I'll check her out. I don't know. Okay.
Wonderful player. But anyway, so after that, he started coming to all the other pianist concerts.
Oh, really?
Wow,
he came that's beautiful.
Every week he came. Every week he came. Yeah, and you know, I was like, oh, you don't have to pay every time that. Yeah, he come every week, and he'd sit right in the front row.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
There'd be some banter sometimes. Hearing aids.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm legally deaf.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've been like this since 9 years old.
Wow. But how does that influence your playing?
Yeah,
your playing?
That's the reason I sound the way I do. Yeah, everything. Yeah, it's a big part of it. But I just had to change the hearing aid battery because it told me that it was running out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge, and you know, that's why, like in school when I started playing, like because it was when I was 9 years old and I couldn't hear anything. Like it was
Oh
like
wow,
very
man.
yeah, the hearing aids made it better. It got a little bit better once I got hearing aids, you know. But you know, that's when you develop all your social skills and all that. That's when you learn how to make friends and be with people and all that. So I was very you know, I don't know if I'd say withdrawn, but you know, yeah, like in other words, I watched everybody, but I
Sure.
wasn't
Yeah.
really a part of it. You know what I mean? Yeah, like that. And so that when I started playing music, I just completely like threw myself into it because there weren't the other, you know, entanglements really because I you know, I couldn't. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah. So
Interesting.
that's what
Yeah.
happened. And that's why, you know, yeah, I was an incessant practicer. You know, my mom would like knock on the door, like a, you know, late.
It's quite cool, man. Yeah.
Yeah, they was my parents were saint like that way. Now that I think back on it, you know, but yeah, it was crazy. But that's what happened. And yeah, now it's confusing to people because when they hear me play, and when I get off the stage, I can't hear shit. I can't hear anybody.
Sure. Oh fuck yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear music really well, and I know what to do. So when I was at William Patterson College, you know the bass player Rufus Reid.
Yeah. Yeah. Of
Rufus
course. Yeah.
Reid, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
he was the director of the program
Yeah.
when I was there. So you know I knew him well back then. You know he was like a mentor. Yeah, what a great mentor. He was such a great player. And when I was at William Patterson, Rufus was in both Stan Getz's group and Dexter Gordon's group, both of them. Yeah. Yeah, it was wow. But anyway, they used to have this thing they called it Dialogue Day once a semester, and every jazz group had to perform, and they shut all the classes down, and everyone in the program was in one room, and it was open to all the music majors like education, you know, composition, whatever. And there would be quite a few people like heavy duty players from the city that were there, like Harold Mayburn was there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people like yeah, that's right. Uh, you know, and I remember the first time we went up there, and you know, I forget what we played. I was like, you know, I was 20. I had just transferred over, you know, and you know, and I played and it was fine, blah blah blah. And then afterwards, here's the thing about it. On this dialogue day, it's the hardest situation you'll ever encounter. And Rufus would tell us, he said, because the way he does it, he gets a mic and he goes, okay, now he'd open it up to comments. And you could say anything you wanted. You could say, that was shit. You guys read it. That was terrible, you know, but you couldn't stop there. You had to say why it was shit.
Mm-hmm.
But you could still, you know, you could be harsh, you know, but you had to like say why. You had to be constructive.
Yeah.
And they have a microphone, you know, and the place is packed. So Rufus gets on the microphone right after we're done. He's like, okay, so you know, Mr. Gauci, he tells everyone that about my hearing. Immediately, I'm standing up there on the stage, and he just tells everyone right away. He knew exactly what to do, and then he turned to me and he said, so you just do whatever you have to do. You know, he said, if you have to turn your back to the audience and stand in front of the bass set, then that's what you do. You find the place on the stage.
Mm.
He said, you have to take the stage. He said,
Yeah.
Miles, you know, he was sickle cell anemia. He couldn't stand up straight, you know, and so he did the stuff that he had to do. And, you know, he would have to turn his back to the audience in order to be able to, stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
He talked about Charlie Hayden. Charlie Hayden was hearing aids. That kind of thing. It's different because Charlie Hayden got them when he was an adult. That's a whole different thing. But anyway, you just broke the ice like right there. He was just, he was like, you just deal. He didn't say it that way, but that was really the message. You just like, it's just another thing like that. So that's what I do. That's what it is. Everything's constructed. In other words, that my job is to play what I hear.
Yeah.
That's right. And yeah, exactly. If that's what all my skill and mastery, that's what it's all for. If I don't play what I hear, then it's not genuine. It's not real. It's not honest.
Yeah.
I have to play exactly. Yeah. And what I hear, it's different than what other people hear. Now, I wasn't born deaf, so that's why I can speak,
Yeah. Interesting. Man, that's heavy.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, when did like you mentioned like Rufus Reed now and Garzone and many kind of like more inside, straight ahead guys. I'll put it like that. When does this?
Straight ahead. I wasn't.
Yeah, where does this love for you for what you do now? Or you've been doing the last 20, 15 years. This to go what's more into the improvised music. When did that begin for you?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So, I'm a jazz player because it doesn't make sense that I'm anything otherwise. If you're going to say I'm a this or a that, then, because all of my teachers were saxophone I play, you know what I mean? And everyone, and they're all like magically, somehow they're like, like illustrious musicians of the day in that tradition, in that particular, just for whatever reason it turned out that way. So I for lack of a better term, yeah, I must be that, but that doesn't mean, I'm the one that got away. Thanks, fellas. I'm going to take all that and I'm going to do whatever the hell I please. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, you see, and I'm not really like it is experimental music. I mean, it depends it's improvised music. You said, that can mean like that. That means that's such a broad.
Yeah.
It's a broad term. Yeah, I mean, definitely. Definitely, I mean, there's certain things I do. Yeah, I'm open to everything, but there's sort of like, if you know where your center is, then there's like the periphery, and there's overlap, like that. So I will never leave my center.
Yeah.
So like I'm not, it's here I am, but here it overlaps with this and that. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Definitely.
Like for example, excuse me. Sandy Ewan, are you familiar with Sandy? Sandy Ewan?
No.
She plays prepared guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, she'd be an interesting interview, actually. Yeah, you should look her up. Yeah, she's phenomenal, and she plays, that stuff. Like yeah. But her time's amazing. Like for a horn player, you just like the horn players want to play with them. She just like it's this, but it's not just like like it's like she's got like time, and I'm pretty sure some of her early mentors and people that she played with in Texas, I think, were tenor players, cats, like older, African American, and it makes, and I didn't know that when I started, but then I read it somewhere, and then I saw some of the records and stuff, and it makes total sense to me now because there's a thing, it's like, yeah. So it's a bit like that when I play. It's informed, like my aesthetic. Like it's always everything's time for me. You know, there's no, you know, this time or that time. It's whatever it is at that moment, whatever it needs to be for me now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's all about time, tone. You know, it's just I mean, really, I'm a in a sense, I'm like a straight ahead guy, but I'm not. Yeah. In a sense, my sound is, you know, and there's only a few people in the like in the avant jazz scene with like a really big sound. There's not too many tenor players. There's a few notable ones. You know, that's like a I guess like a jazz thing. You know, like a you know, like a Sonny Rollins. You know, Sonny Rollins, right?
Yeah.
But that's what you know, my teacher, whose horn I play, like he was just adamant you're gonna have like big sound. Like that was the first thing. That was the very first thing. So it's like, you know, I have to. He's like,
yeah.
Right? But that's like that big band thing because they didn't have microphones. So,
Mics, yeah.
And Webster, you had like that. So some of these like improvised music stuff, you know, it's got more of a collective vibe. And this is beautiful too. But for me, like it's difficult for someone like me to play in that type of a thing because I'm a leader. You know what I mean? Because the way I play leads. So you know,
I know what you mean.
When I go group, everybody's just gonna go right with me.
Yep.
Because it's just everything I've trained to do. Yeah, like that. So again, this goes back to like knowing who you are. Like even in the playing. Like I know what kind of a player I am and I know what that means. Yeah, like that. Yeah, and part of the thing with the quartets, that series of quartets that I did, that was sort of for me to also because I've done more trio playing.
Exactly.
Playing.
Yeah.
That's right. So that was part of me. You see, if you put yourself against various other not backgrounds, but it's just like, you know, it's like, you know, white on white, white on red, white on blue, white on black, white on various shades of this and that, right? And then it's the same, but it's different. You see, like you're always you, or it's like if you're you know, visiting your parents, or if you're hanging out with, you know, your girlfriend or your wife or something, right? And it's they're both you, but there's differences in the way you're you.
Yeah.
It brings out different things. Like
makes
on
sense.
that, you know, I did on that record I did with Billy Mims and Ivan Opsvik and
I love those guys.
Matt Mitchell. That one, I love that record, and because it's Billy, and he's just like, it's like the volume level is like right, the energy is high, but it's all like yeah. So on that record, you can hear all this other stuff in my tone. It's all like, you know, down in the low end a lot more. There's all this saxophone stuff you can hear. Where if you're overblowing all the time,
exactly.
Then that stuff doesn't come out. You know, different things come out. You see it? So it's like that. So all the various groups, you know, but you know but that's part of what that series was about. I think about those kind of things as well, sort of to
more different,
kind of grow out my concept.
Yeah.
Grow out my concept that way. Yeah, but I'm all jazz, absolutely. Like when I practice, like everything's lined up. You know, it's not like in the you know That's all like lined up. This one,
Yeah.
yeah, it's all like that. Like it's all worked out that way. Not now, but I mean, that's what it is. It's sort of, it's really not very much different.
Yeah.
I'm not a free player. I'm a free person. I'm a free human being, you know, and I'm a free musician. You know, you can't be a free, you know, I mean, you know, I'm not like a free jazz player. That's like a thing. I don't want to be this or that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I call it Gauci music too. It's sort of, you know, without being all like, hey, my name is Stephen Gauci, you know, I'm like,
Yeah.
but you know, it's my music. It's my,
Definitely.
yeah, like that. Yeah, I think there's people like that. That's, you see, that's part of like a role, because there are other people who that's not their role to do that. It's not their role to say that and be that, like what I'm doing now. It's their role to be, you know, I'm the next in this line of this tradition, like that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because that's what they're supposed. That's what they're meant to do.
Yeah.
You know, you can't like propagate that stuff. You have to be what you're meant, and then you know, then it all like, Go ahead. Next question. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit verbose.
No. It's really cool. No, I wanted to ask you what. Speaking of all these projects, what you mentioned before already, you're coming to Europe and you're focusing on Europe. What are your future months, the upcoming months? You know, what have you planned, gig-wise or project-wise or recording-wise? Do you have some new stuff coming up or?
Recording, yeah, I have a bunch of recordings coming out actually. Oh wow! Right offhand, let me think. I have a duet with Mark Edwards. I have another duet with Patrick Golden. I have the drummer. And on these ones, I'm playing saxophone, clarinet, and flute.
Okay.
So I've like expanded a little bit the colors and all that kind of thing. And the trio with with Adam Lane and Kevin, we just recently we did a record, and that will be coming out soon. I have another thing with Matt Hollenberg and Lim Yang and Patrick Golden quartet. There's stuff. There's more. I can't remember everything. So yeah, recording wise, there's a lot of stuff. And right now, though, in terms of gigs coming up, I'm focused on Europe, and I'm just waiting to see what comes through with this one thing before I start my booking focus. But that's pretty much. I'm pretty sure you'll be seeing me out there soon, one way or the other, because I'll be out in Europe. That's definitely going to be my focus going forward. You know, and that would, again, that'll change everything. You know, that will change everything because it's all different musicians, all different clubs. That's part of it too. You know, it's like with the shutting the series down and sort of taking a break. So Sonny Rollins, right? The Bridge, right? So he took a year off.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, I'm not saying I'm Sonny Rollins, I didn't mean it that way. But what I'm saying is that he took a year off. He was at the peak. He was at the peak of his career. And he just completely disappeared. He didn't play any gigs. Nobody knew where he was. He was practicing on the Bridge, but only a few people knew that. That's it. That was like word of mouth. Yeah, that's it. And so what I'm saying is that that's a sign of a particular type of a person.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? You know, like that. It's like, you know, it's not like you can't separate the artist from the human being. It's just, because that means you're ready to like, well, yes, that was good. And you know, there's a like a story about the Sufis, and that back in the 1,000 years ago in the desert, they would start a business. They would set up in a town or a village, and they'd start like a cigarette store or something, you know, whatever it was. And they built it up, from the ground up over 10 years or whatever, and then it would be thriving. They'd be a successful business person. And then when that moment reached, then he'd bring down the store, burn everything to the ground, and then he'd go to another village and he'd start another one. Like that. And it takes a lot of courage to like be able to do that. But the thing is, you can't do anything. You can't move on unless there's space.
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah. So so this is where I am right now. Now I'm in that in between space part just for like 5 minutes.
That's cool.
For like 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, but that's cool.
But do you need to wrap it up? No, or no?
I mean, we can. Yeah, I mean, we got nice stuff covered. So, yeah.
Do you have anything else like?
I think we covered quite a lot, and we'll follow up when you come to Europe, and we'll have a beer or wine together, and we'll play and chat. So I think.
I would love to.
Yeah. So.
All right, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you too, man. I'll let you. Yeah, you too. I'll let you know when this is out, and I'll send you a link and everything. So, and drop me a line, Stephen, when you're going to be in Europe, and let's find a date to get together and everything. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I hope your allergies are better.
Yeah.